5, 6, 7, 8.
Spotlight.
On stage at MMT.
Spotlight.
I meet the cast, crew, and company.
Spotlight.
Sit back,
On stage
relax, and
tonight.
give us a
Spotlight on stage at MMT.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Spotlight on Stage at MMT. We are here today with Colby, who is one of our company members, and we're just going to have a little chat with her today. So, Colby, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone at home and tell them a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Hi, I'm Colby. I have been doing shows at MMT, I guess DPAC as well, since I think it was 2014, Legally Blonde Summer? Something along those lines?
Sounds about right.
Something like that? Yeah. So for a good amount of time now. It doesn't feel that long, but it also feels very long. So doing stuff there, doing stuff here, I guess real life. I work in admission. I used to do college admission, and now I work at a boarding high school, so that's kind of fun. So theater's a fun way to do something different. So it's been a great time being outside, and also an even better time being inside.
I think we'll all agree on that one.
Will you tell us about your performing experiences from growing up or from outside of MMT, just kind of giving everyone an idea of what you do or what you have done in the past?
Sure. So I did a lot of theater when I was very little, and I think it's one of those things where everyone kind of does shows and choir and things when they're little, and I did a bunch of stuff at the Playhouse. And then once I exited elementary school, it kind of became something that I stopped really doing much until I graduated from college and grad school, and I was kind of looking for something fun to do, and one of my friends said, let's try out for a show, and so I said, hey, why not? That sounds like fun. And so that's kind of what led me to start doing theater again. And I remember when I came to my first audition here, I saw Lewis and I recognized him right away because I had done a show with Lewis when I was really little. And so that was kind of like a fun connection, and I was kind of like excited to restart that again.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it was Annie? Is that?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Always Annie.
Always
Very good. So you talked a little bit about what you do kind of outside of theater, and I guess to kind of piggyback off of that, do you use any of your theatrical training in your real day job, or vice versa?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think definitely. So I interview students for high school. Now it used to be college, and so a lot of the times it's trying to get them to open up. It is a lot of improv, and it's also a lot of like being on. I think something that's always been interesting for me about theater is, for me, the older I get, I think it's weird, the more shy and introverted I've gotten, and I think theater kind of gives me the outlet to kind of put myself out there and do something different and get in the mind of a character. And I think, I hate to say that I'm like putting on a character at work, but I think, no matter what your day is, you have to come in and really, sell the school and be really happy and, show your interest. And most of the time, you are interested. I want to get to know these kids and stuff like that. But, so I think I use a lot of the same skills in those ways.
That's great,
Yeah.
and there's, it just goes back to there being very practical applications to, and you even alluded to the fact that you had theatrical experience when you were younger, and so that's just something that, as an adult, if you do feel a little timid or shy, you know how to kind of click back into that, okay, I know where to pull these skills from, and I know how to execute this. And I think that's a really valuable lesson, that, theater is more than just on stage, and it has very, daily applications, the skill set that we use.
Yeah, and I think when I worked in college admission, I used to recruit for like the performing arts program, and they always used to say to parents when they talked about, should my kid get a theater degree? What are some of those things that I should be thinking about? Like, I'm nervous, what if they don't, make it on Broadway? And there's so many things that you learn, I think, from theater, and our director used to say, a lot of people aren't doing the things that they major in, and being a part of theater, like, you learn to work with other people and think on the spot, and like, you work backstage, you work on stage, you do all of these things that are part of a team, and there's so many kind of like applied skills that you learn that you're even more prepared probably than a lot of other majors just from having that kind of a degree and training.
Yeah, theater
Yeah.
prepares you for
everything.
life. Yeah, it
Theater
really
prepares
does.
you for life. You heard it here.
Good. How about some of your favorite shows that you've performed in with us, whether it be at the park or here?
Sure. I've talked to people about this before, and it's a hard one. I feel like I go back and forth with all of them, and I always come back to Legally Blonde. I think because I think every single show has had like a specific reason why it might be my favorite.
Sure.
Even though that one, like, I think I have favorites at the park and favorites here.
Yeah.
But it's the first time that I got the full experience. I think every time I do a show with people and they're brand new, and you see them like deer in headlights sometimes, not everybody, but like at the first rehearsal, I usually go up to people and I'm like, I feel you because I've been there. Because everyone has their first show where they come in, and it's at the time especially, it was like this 10, 11-hour rehearsal days.
Yeah.
You're learning like 5 numbers back to back, and then you have like a break, and then you're learning all the music. And it's just a crazy thing until you get used to it. And I remember walking in, my first rehearsal was whipped into shape.
Sorry about it.
I got handed a jump rope, and there we go. And it's like, you just kind of learn from there. And I think I feel like being here, I've gotten to do a lot of things I never thought I could do, and be put in a lot of roles that I never thought I'd be put in, and it's been like a good thing. And so I think Legally Blonde kind of like started me on that path.
Throw you in the
So I
pool.
liked that one.
Make
Yeah,
you swim.
threw me right
That's
in.
great, and that's a good point.
Yeah.
We've spoken with some of these other interviews that our process is a little different than the traditional community theater process. And I mean, Colby's referencing when we were at the open air theater, our rehearsal schedule was blocked out a little bit differently because obviously now that we're indoors, which we love, we can't have a 10-hour rehearsal on a Saturday because there are performances, children's theater and main stage as well. So back in the old days at the park, we would have rehearsals at the studio while the performances were going on there. So we would knock out like a very long Saturday usually and a hefty Sunday as well. So they would be really long rehearsals, and you would be cramming a lot of information in. So it was definitely a long day. I do want to touch on something that you mentioned earlier about being backstage, because you've done some backstage work for us as well.
I have.
And I love for people to know that, it's not always just about being on stage and being out in front. So why don't you kind of let the at-home audience know what you've done behind the scenes for us as well?
Sure. I feel like a lot of it has been running spot. That's been the main thing, but I've really loved it. I think it's a really neat experience. Of course, you have the best seat in the house because you're right up there, which is fun, and you get to hang out with everyone backstage. And I love the technical side of things. I think you really get to see the full scope of what goes on, and I think I feel like it's so important to do a little bit of both and kind of see what goes into it and how much hard work. And I think you don't realize until you do it that it's not just, people are throwing lights on. Like, there's so much that goes into what, is done. And you see a show in a completely different way. And some of my favorite shows that I've been a part of have been like watching Spamalot every night. And I'm like, I think I would never want to be in Spamalot because I'd always want to spot Spamalot. It's just a really fun show to spot and to watch all the time. It's very funny. So I've really enjoyed that.
It is,
Yeah.
Spamalot particularly is very enjoyable.
Yeah.
But that's a great point. They're called lighting and sound designers for a reason. It's not just hitting a switch and turning the lights on.
Exactly.
It's, setting the mood and having great transitions from one thing to the next. And it is really valuable as a performer as well to kind of understand the scope, like you mentioned, of what is going on, because then you kind of inherently are maybe a little bit more gracious to those that are behind the scenes more often.
Yeah.
And I think that's something important, especially for younger performers, to really kind of learn as much as you possibly can, not just about performing, but if you're interested in sound, look into that. If you're interested in lighting, look into that, or directing, look into that. It's really something that will just broaden your wealth of knowledge. I'll take the next question here. You kind of mentioned one, but from the spot, what are some shows that you've seen here, weren't necessarily a part of, but you've seen here that you've enjoyed or that stand out to you?
I would say, and I feel like this is just such I should pick something different sort of answer, because it seems very obvious to say Christmas Carol. I mean, there's a couple of them. There's certain ones that I really loved seeing. I think in the first season, I loved Oklahoma and Godspell, especially like back to back, just that like time period. I loved both of them so much. And I think it's because neither one were shows that I was really drawn to or knew as much about, I think, going in. And then I wound up loving them, and I think everyone in them was so good, and I ended up loving Oklahoma and doing Oklahoma later because I loved it so much, and I thought both of those productions were just really well done. But every year before since I used to do college admission, I could never do Christmas Carol because I always travel during the rehearsal time. But I cried every single year when you went down to the grave and Tiny Tim, spoiler alert, I'm sure. I guess. Not for anyone probably, but sorry for those who haven't seen Christmas Carol. But when he dies, it's just a very sad moment, and there's so much in that show that really just kind of, it gives you all the feelings.
And then you got the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, and now it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've seen it from both sides.
Exactly.
Obviously, Christmas Carol is a staple.
So then let me ask you this, because you talked about your first rehearsal with Legally Blonde. Let me ask you about your first rehearsal with A Christmas Carol.
Oh, yeah.
Because again, we've talked with a few other cast members, and how a big majority of the cast is returnees, so it is very much so, come to the first rehearsal and a lot of people know what they're doing already. So how was that? Was it a similar feeling, or was it different because you know everybody now?
I think it probably somewhere in between. It was definitely that feeling in a way, but I think I kind of knew how the rehearsal process went, so that was helpful, and I knew some people in the show, and that was too, and seeing it.
Yeah.
But it is like everyone knows what they're doing, and I remember David and I were partners for, or
Fezziwig.
still are, for Fezziwig, and he just kind of like brought me around the stage. And before like you would explain something, he'd be like, okay, this is what's happening. And I kind of like felt like I was able to catch up because everyone helps each other and tells you. And so it's kind of becomes a family, and everyone knows like, don't worry, like next year you'll be here too. So there's a lot of that happens. It makes it a little easier.
Yeah, the vets from that show usually take the newbies under their wings.
So I had David.
Yeah. All right. Next question is, how about give us a show that you would like to see us do here? Whether it's for personal reasons that you love the show and we've never done it, or something that you were like, I'm dying to see us do that here.
I feel like you're gonna know the answer to this. Cats.
I could have guessed.
Yeah, that's probably the one. There's a bunch of them, I think, but or certain things like that were done at the park that I'm excited to see here as well, which I think would be cool. Just see them in a different space, and yeah.
All right, so cats it is.
Cats. Yeah, that's probably final answer. I feel like you probably saw that coming. I don't know.
So
Colby loves cats.
Yes, she does. It's not a secret.
He loves cats.
So we want to ask next, and again, this answer is different for everyone, but what is it to you that keeps you coming back to performing? Not necessarily here, but just performing in general. What is it that you get that you feel kind of adds to your life or makes it richer?
Yeah, it's tough. I think kind of similar to what I think I sort of touched on this a little earlier, but for me, when I'm like on stage, I feel like I'm kind of like escaping myself is the wrong way to say it, but you get to, be someone else. You get to step outside your life and forget about, you walk in the doors and the stressful day at work is gone, and all the, you could be stuck in traffic on the way, or anything could be happening, and I think you get to shut off and live in this world for a little bit. And so there's kind of like that escape in a way, but also getting to be another character and sort of step outside yourself. I love school, which is like a weird thing to say. I love studying and research, and I love to like look up a character and learn all the background and all of that kind of stuff. So I think getting to be in different shows gives me the opportunity to kind of like dive deeper and learn more and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of like fulfills like that intellectual curiosity that I have. So
that's great.
Yeah.
And it kind of leads me to my next point of a standout role for us of yours, tying back to your love of school, is what's that character's name is escaping right now? Penny Pinkleton. So why don't you just touch briefly on your experience with Hairspray, and had you worked on it before, or did you know much about it? You know, all that stuff.
Sure. I love Hairspray. I've always wanted to be in it. I never got to do it until I was here, which is exciting. And it's funny because it was one of those things where I got the casting and I was obviously very, very excited, but I didn't see it coming at all. Because I love the show, and I think I was just like, I just want to be in it and do anything in this show because it's such a fun one. And I had seen Lucy do it before as Tracy, and she was wonderful, and I just kind of fell in love with it. And so I was just very excited to get to do something really fun and different that I wasn't expecting.
And you did a great job with that.
Thanks.
I do want to do one more quick question for you before we move to the final segment.
Sure.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you didn't have much experience doing straight plays. You did more musicals rather than straight plays, is that correct?
My first one was Dracula.
Right, which was just in the fall, right?
Yeah.
In last fall. So why don't you just kind of give your take on kind of how it differs for you as an actress?
Sure. So I think it's something where I've always leaned on my singing because it was sort of like my first thing that I ever did. And so I was always kind of very nervous because I felt like, you know, I got that moment to build into things, and I don't know what it was about it, and I'm still a little nervous, I think, but it's something that I've realized that I love and I want to do more of. And I'll get to
you're
now.
doing one now.
Yeah, so we're in rehearsals right now. By the time this airs, we will probably be in production for The Diary of Anne Frank, which Colby is a part of that cast. So then let me tie in the last two questions together and ask you about your research on this role. Tell everyone at home who you were playing and the fact that it was a real life person.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you've done any research yet or anything like that. And yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Since you love school.
I love school. So I'm playing Margot, and I read The Diary of Anne Frank like a long, long time ago, but I think the interesting thing is, you know, Anne is obviously the central character, and so you connect to her story, you remember things about her, but I didn't remember a ton about Margot. So when I was cast in the show, right now I'm actually rereading the diary, but I read like different versions and I watched the movie and looking at different things that I've like researched about her specifically. And like I didn't know, for example, that Margot wrote a diary and they like never found it, and like all of these different dynamics in the family that I think I didn't think about because you think from someone's specific perspective. So it's been really neat and cool to try and get in the head of her and her relationship with her mom, and talking with Lauren about that has been cool. We joke around about a lot of stuff too, so it's fun.
I think it's really, I'm so happy that you've had the experience of doing a play, because I think it's really important for a performer, and I think it's somewhat empowering as well, because I too, you know, was a singer first, so that's kind of my default, that's my comfort zone. And I think it's so interesting, and it can be very eye-opening when you do a play, because you, as a singer, or maybe as a dancer for certain people, you don't have that like safety net necessarily, and it's a little bit more, you feel a little bit more exposed. And you can also then sympathize with people that you've done musicals before who are actors first and are now trying to kind of, you know, bring in the other parts as well. But I think it's so important for performers to, at one point or another, experience doing a play, because it's a different experience.
Yeah.
And I think it's really something that can help you grow as a performer.
Definitely.
But buy a ticket to The Diary of Anne Frank.
Yeah,
you can come see it in here, or you can watch it from home.
And Colby has to get to rehearsal shortly, so we're going to move now to our final segment, which is the homage to Inside the Actor's Studio.
So I have the first two questions. They are, what is your favorite musical? We already know that answer. It is?
Cabaret, actually.
Oh my gosh, I was expecting Cats. So Cabaret's your favorite. All right.
Yeah, I have a lot of favorites, but I feel like right now that's where I am.
It's a great one.
Yeah.
Then let me ask this question.
Yeah.
What is your least favorite musical?
Lewis, please don't hate me. It's Carousel.
There's no hate. It's all good.
I was like, one day this is going to come up. I saw it, and I was like, oh, one day I'm going to be talking to Lewis, and I'm going to have to tell him that I don't like Carousel.
It's quite all right.
His feelings are hurt.
I don't really like cats, so it's all good.
Okay.
You have the next two.
Sure. What sound or noise do you love?
I was gonna say cats. I won't say cats. Is music too broad?
No,
Music.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Conversely, what sound or noise do you hate?
Motorcycles? Is that a weird answer?
I agree.
I'm working from home right now, so they come by my office when I'm interviewing kids a lot. So
No, thank you.
yeah, sets on the brain.
All right, I have, what is your favorite word?
Chocolate, maybe, probably. Chocolate. Final
And
answer.
What's your final answer? What's your least favorite word?
Work.
Also a good choice. All right. What is your curse word of choice? And we will bleep you out, so feel free to say whatever it is.
So just say a bunch of them. I don't know. I don't really curse that much, oddly enough. I feel like there's like a range of like curse words. I feel like I lean on like the like shit a lot, stuff like that, more than like
That's
harder,
your
harder
word of
ones.
choice then.
Yeah.
What profession, other than your own, would you like to try?
So unrealistically, I think I've always wanted to do like be a ropes or like zip line kind of like guide. I love that kind of stuff. Or a duck tours guide because I love Boston and I like giving tours. Or that's why when I was younger. But I actually have been thinking about, in all seriousness, going back to school for like publishing or library science.
Oh, wow.
So something along those lines. I like to like read and edit and write and stuff.
Very
so,
interesting.
You like school.
And I love school, so I really want to go back.
Maybe you could do zip lining
I didn't realize what it was till it
and
was gone.
school. What?
Yeah. Yeah, I could do that. Ziplining school.
Yeah, zip lining school.
Yeah.
Where are we at? What profession would you not like to do?
Oh,
Never.
I don't know. That's a hard one. Maybe something maybe with math? I don't know.
I would
So
not
no
like
math
that
teacher.
either.
Something, yeah, probably not a math teacher or like an accountant or something like that.
mathematician.
Me either.
Yeah, I'm not good at it.
Me
So,
either.
yeah, I'm a writer, not a math person.
And finally, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Don't worry, there's a Starbucks. I don't know, or something related to food that I would know, like, I'm in a good place.
That is a good answer.
All right, we would like to thank Colby for joining us this evening, and thank you all for tuning in and watching, and catch us on the next segment of Spotlight on Stage.